Hello, today's video, today's shining star in the YouTube galaxy, centres on Shakespeare's use of form in Macbeth. A lot of students have been asking me to look at this. I don't know about you, I just can't get all fuzzy and fizzy about all that iambic pentameter, hexameter, all that flim-flam. Counting syllables, now you're right, what is this, maths? Spare me. But we've all got to tap dance to the examiner's tragic tune, so this video is on Shakespeare's use of prose, a literary form or a dramatic form that bobs up from time to time in Macbeth. Now, most of Macbeth is written in the literary or dramatic form of iambic pentameter, that 10 beats per line. This is conventional for a lot of his plays, particularly his tragedies, Macbeth, Othello and King Lear. Less so for his comedies, but that doesn't really concern us now. Suffice it to say, the three quotations here pulled from Macbeth are 10 beats per line, iambic pentameter. And working out if something is iambic pentameter or not seems to be big fun for some folk. Not myself, of course. The idea of counting syllables has too much of the smell of maths about it for me. Anyway, there's a solid rule when Shakespeare veers away from iambic pentameter, or blank verse it's called. That's when things get interesting. That's significant. And the high-level student like yourself would do well to pay attention and think about why this shift in form. And as I say, today we're looking at the dramatic or the literary form of prose, because sometimes in Macbeth the dramatic form switches from that iambic pentameter to prose. First question, what is prose? Basically it's everyday language. You know, I'm using it now. I'm not worrying my pretty little head about the number of beats per line or making stuff rhyme. And you'll find most novels, most non-fiction, newspapers, magazines and the like, there's no rule governing line length. I mean, you could argue that it's kind of like the wild man of dramatic forms, because it doesn't really play by any rules. You know, it's a plucky maverick that makes lines as long or short as it wants. So, when Shakespeare switches to prose in Macbeth, it usually means one of three things. It can refer to a character's or allude to a character's low status. It can also be a great vehicle or way of presenting informal dialogue. And finally, it's a great way for telegraphing or showcasing or presenting a character's mental or emotional turmoil. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick look at each of these in turn, just to see how Shakespeare's formal experimentation with prose works in Macbeth. First off then, we'll look at this idea that prose denotes a low status character, i.e. whoever's speaking in prose is of an inferior social position. The Porter's a classic example of this. Now, I've done an outstanding video on this lad somewhere else, though I say it myself. But in short, he's the hungover gatekeeper of Macbeth's castle, and he tells a few willy jokes, which obviously we'd refer to as sexual innuendo in the exam, before letting Macduff into the castle to expose Duncan's death. This is, of course, Act 2. This guy speaks in prose, and what it does is it denotes that low social status. Iambic pentameter, conversely, is seen as a noble verse form. You'll often get high status characters, Macbeth, Duncan, Banquo. They will speak with that 10 beats per line. That alludes to their noble or high status character. Shakespeare then presents the porter as working class through prose. Think proletariat, think prose. And also in Act 5 you've got the maid and Lady Macbeth's doctor. They speak in prose too, just to convey their separation from the noble protagonists, because these guys, they're servants really. But Mr. Taylor, you stunt double for Shrek, you, how can I actually use this stuff in an exam? You may well ask. Well, if an extract, question A in an Excel paper, is on the porter, you could do a paragraph like this. Now the stuff in red at the bottom, that's dealing with the idea of prose. I've just developed my paragraph with it, you know, pushed my grade northwards with a little delving into the function of prose in this extract. The second use of prose is as a vehicle or a form for rude or crude or informal dialogue, because prose bespeaks a certain lack of formality, especially in Shakespeare's comedies. If some dude's honking on about sex or relationships, or having a bit of a dig, a bit of banter and repartee with somebody, you often find prose will be the medium of the form that Shakespeare uses. I guess as a general rule, if a character's talking about stuff that, you know, maybe wouldn't talk about in front of the Queen, it's done in prose, and it kind of telegraphs that lack of formality. And here be some evidence to back up my insightful assertion that prose can be a great vehicle for conveying the naughty stuff. Let's go back to our pervy porter. Lots of sexual innuendo from this lad, which is pretty informal, thus being well suited to prose. There's a bit in Act 4 as well where Lady Macduff and her son are prattling away about her getting another man if Macduff's dead. It was real playful repartee, this idea of sniffing out a new bloke before you can say Tinder. And prose, of course, reflects the casual nature of that part of the conversation. What is this, Gubbins? Well, you saw before how I developed a paragraph in the Porter with a few lines about the function of prose, and it just gave a little bit more depth, didn't it, to my analysis of the evidence. Pretty much what I've done here as well, to add on or bolt on sentences that you could use to develop your analysis of something informal said either by the Porter or the Macduff family. Final use of prose now in Macbeth is as a way of capturing a character's mental instability. What do we say prose was? We said there's no rule governing, no fixed rule governing line length. And I guess that's a great way then, that irregularity of structure is a great way of capturing the chaotic nature of Lady Macbeth's mind in Act 5. You know, when guilt's eating away at her like a good one. You know, she's mad as a bottle of carrots, isn't she? And prose is highlighting that mental derailment. You've had the theory, now try the practice. You know how it works now. The stuff in red is commenting on that switch to prose with a view to Lady Macbeth's character in Act 5. You'll see it's a fruitful addition to my examination of the language and structure here. Hey, and I've just thought of something. Hold on to your hats here, ladles and jelly spoons. That switch to prose in Act 5 for Lady Macbeth. Do you remember we said, first of all, that prose can denote a low status character? Well, this woman, on the back end of committing regicide, has her status, her nobility has gone into free fall. So perhaps as well, that switch to prose captures just how far or how low her character has sank socially by killing Duncan. Right then, let's mop up and get gone. There are three key uses for prose in Macbeth. It can denote a character's low status, Porter in Act 2, Lady Macbeth's Doctor and Maid in Act 5. It can also be a great way for capturing dialogue of an informal nature, like the Porter sexual innuendo and some of that banter between Lady Macduff and her son. Finally, of course, it can denote mental or emotional turmoil, as we see with Lady Macbeth in Act 5. And I guess if we're after a unifying idea that links all three of those uses of prose, it could be this. Prose captures a sense of loss. Think prose, think lose. You're seeing a loss of social status. You're seeing a loss of formality. You're seeing a loss of stability. Think prose, think lose. Hey, you could have that printed on a t-shirt, couldn't you? You could take that to Dragon's Den. Final bit now, quotations. Specific examples of prose plucked from those scenes that I've cited. You know, the port scene, Act 2, Macduff's family, having a chat in Act 4, and of course the mental breakdown scene in Act 5. All there for your prompt attention. But danger, danger, high voltage. Don't do what Mr. Taylor did during the dark days when he sat his GCSEs before internet and penicillin. I saw an extract like this where Lady Macbeth says 5 syllables, Macbeth says 5 syllables, and I thought, ho, 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 ho. They're speaking in prose, that's capturing their emotional anxiety on the back end of killing Duncan. Actually, that is not prose. You'll notice 5 syllables, or rather the 10 syllables, are shared across 2 lines. So that's still an example of iambic pentameter. It's just those 10 beats are stretched across 2 characters and 2 lines. The effect's the same. It still captures that anxiety, that nervousness, that emotional instability, but it is not prose. And that's all she wrote. The dramatic form of prose in Macbeth, presented with a grace, depth and dexterity that's frankly awe-inspiring. Leastways, that's what my mum says. I'll leave you good people now with 2 pictures from my daughter, 2 dolls, or as I like to say, toodles, and best of luck in that exam hall.